All right, perfect. So we can get started then. Lauren, for those who don't know you yet, how would you describe what you do at Netflix and your role as the co-founder of Latinas in Tech also?
Yeah, well, I'm Lauren Loera. I'm a technical recruiting researcher at Netflix, which is a long title that can be translated into a lot of different things. Some people call it hiring consultant, headhunter, recruiter. I like to see myself more as a thought partner. So I work with engineering leaders across multiple organizations at Netflix to calibrate on their hiring needs and then bring in the best talent for those roles. I also work to really cultivate a hiring strategy that fosters inclusivity. So I do a lot of like diversity and inclusion program management and also just coaching for those engineering leaders to understand how to foster this incoming talent as well. A lot of that segues into my my journey with Latinas in Tech. So when I started my initiatives with inclusivity and diversity hiring earlier in my career, I worked with Latinas in Tech in Austin and learned a lot about their mission and really found that it was going to be pivotal to have that type of environment and mission like cultivated here in Houston. So I had relocated to Houston right before the pandemic and was still carrying on that venture with Austin. But after discussing with a few other leaders in the space, we thought it was a great time to open up that chapter for Houston as well. And so we've been open for 5, almost 6 years. And I still jump in to help with events and speaking opportunities and mostly just keep up with the board to see if there's any other ways I can continue to support the group.
That's amazing, and that's really cool that Netflix still, prioritizes DEI. I know a lot of other companies kind of scaled back on that, so that's wonderful that that still continued. And for you, how did it feel to be recognized as part of the Negocios Now 40 Under 40 class of 2025?
Yeah, well, it's still a shock to me in the best way. Of course, I'm extremely grateful to be recognized as a part of that class, which was the first class for Houston. Um, I think what really resonated me with me the most is it came at the perfect time. I feel like in today's times, it sometimes becomes difficult to kind of see your value in the work that you're doing, especially as a Latino. And so I was in this headspace at the time where I was like, is the work that I'm doing still being valued? Because diversity and inclusion strategies had scaled back in the industry. And after participating in a lot of conferences, I noticed that those company engagements weren't there anymore. And so it just started making me feel like I can still do this work in my core role, but how is this going to continue to be invested over time? And after being a part of this Negocios Now class for Houston, I had the opportunity to meet with a lot of really great leaders in multiple different industries and saw how powerful they were and how they were really continuing to break the glass in multiple facets. And so, if anything, it really motivated me just to continue to be stronger and louder about my mission in my own space.
That's amazing. Congrats again.
Thank
And
you.
what inspired your journey into the tech recruiting and how did that lead you to Netflix?
Yeah, so when you talk to recruiters, a lot of them will kind of say the same thing, like, I just kind of fell into this job. That is very true for me also. I originally went to school for radiation therapy and I transitioned into business psychology after a couple years. And I still didn't really know like where I wanted my career to land. But recruiting or even working in the tech industry was just not a part of my plan. But I did start to kind of dip my toes into the tech industry after working in Austin because it was definitely booming there at the time, and had the opportunity to work with a startup. Originally, I was like, I'm not technical enough for this job. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to like interview people on a job that I know nothing about, but it is a very it's an industry that is always willing to teach. And I not only found an opportunity to learn about tech, but also started to find out where I can be specialized in the space, by also teaching them about what it's like to have new perspectives in the room and how to kind of foster underrepresented individuals coming into this space. So, 8 years in, I know a lot about coding and the software development lifecycle. I've worked with lots of really great leaders and started to even pick up a little bit of like technical skills of my own. But at the same time, I feel like I'm also leaving my mark to teach them about what it's like to have different voices in the room and so on. And so just that approach, getting into the industry while working to kind of specialize myself in the space, really gave me lots of great opportunities to navigate through different companies and get into big tech, which led me into Netflix. So it's been very rewarding nonetheless.
That's so powerful. I love how you just, you didn't forget about your community and others, and you really encouraged that and grew that, and that just kind of became almost like your niche in
Yeah.
your career. What's something that people might not realize about what it's like to recruit in the tech industry today?
So today, in
Mm.
today's time, it has felt very emotional to be a recruiter in the space because you see lots of ebbs and flows with the way the industry is moving. Of course, through the pandemic, we saw a peak for tech. Everyone was inside, everyone was finding new ways to connect, and lots of companies grew in that time or scaled in that time. And then once things started going back to normal, we call it like the pandemic pop. And so people started scaling back with tech and wanted more of that human connection. And that still is something that is an adjustment for us. Like we're learning the ebbs and flows of how people are adopting technology. And with that, it means that there are times where recruiting can be in a very competitive space. And then there are times where it's extremely challenging to find somebody for the role. And today is one of those like more competitive seasons for the industry because as folks move into AI, there are lots of layoffs that are happening. And on the recruiter side, it's great because I'm like, okay, there's lots of really great talent that is out there that could be great fits for these roles. But the downside is when there is a lot of great talent, it's really hard to motivate hiring managers to want to keep that inclusive lens or work to be a little bit more flexible with somebody who may not be perfect for the role because they know there could be someone better out there. And we, well, I'll take it upon myself. Like I, as a recruiter, love to sell my candidates to the role. I try to find all of the nuances and specialties that can make them a really great fit for that opportunity, even if there are some gaps, because as a hiring leader, you are also someone who can foster growth and challenge somebody to grow as they join your team. And a lot of the times these candidates get very, very close to the finish line and they're beaten out by somebody who was just that much better. And that really does put like an emotional hold on me because I try really hard to make sure that this person is inching towards their dream job. But one thing I do still kind of leave my candidates with is, just because it's a no, that's not a never. It's just a not right now. And so timing is everything, and never stop trying for that dream job just because you had one rejection, because the industry is always shifting and changing, and the all of the hard work you put into an interview process will leave its mark, and we can always come back to you at another time and remember you for being that strong candidate from the past. So, but yeah, it does get tough whenever you have such a great connection and relationship with people to get them to that next step, and it doesn't always pan out.
That's amazing that this is just such a good opportunity to kind of get your perspective on the recruiter side, because there's a lot of videos and interviews out there from people that are applying and they're in the job search, and there is a lot of discouragement. So it's kind of nice to know, well, these recruiters, they're your cheerleaders, like they have your back, like they want you to get the role. So that's a good thing for them to keep in mind through the process.
Of course.
And what's been one of your proudest or most meaningful career moments so far?
Well, I thought about this pretty hard, especially with the 40 under 40 recognition just being very fresh. That has really been a highlight for me. But I wanted to kind of look back over the 8 years that I've been in the industry, and I think it really is starting Latinas in tech. Just that journey getting to that point has really been a long but impactful and intentional journey for me. When I started in the tech industry as a recruiter, I was with a startup who was looking into creating a nonprofit that was specifically aimed towards bringing more women in the industry. And back then, that was like the largest deficit that was, very visible to the tech industry. And it was a great mission. And I got to learn a little bit more about like the depressing statistics of having, non-white cis male in the industry. And so as we worked to kind of find ways to bring more women, I also started to notice that women, the women that we were bringing in didn't look very different to me compared to the men that were in the industry. Of course, there was that gender diversity, but they all looked the same to me because there wasn't any color in the room. And so that led me to want to start up a branch that specifically focused on Black and Brown communities, and recognizing myself, I'm the only Latino in this room as a recruiter. So there wasn't a lot of other people also calling out those statistics. And so as I journeyed onto that, I started doing the same as I moved into Amazon and AWS. And that's where I had my opportunity to work with Latinas in Tech in Austin, partnering them with AWS to have more of like inclusive events driven towards the community. But once I had the chance to move back to my hometown, being Houston, I knew like nobody that I grew up with was in the tech industry. My parents also didn't know much about tech, my family. And there was just a great opportunity to really show that, hey, like those careers seem so far away from what we think we may be capable of, but we truly are capable of being there. So when we launched Houston's chapter, we did get to see that appetite for wanting to strive for these bigger and better careers that maybe we never thought we were qualified for. And so as we launched that, it's only grown so much so fast. And it's really been a beautiful thing to see like, wow, there are a lot of Latinas in this industry now compared to the 8 years ago when I just noticed it. And so I feel like it's always been a very proud moment for me to see how much that's grown.
That's amazing. And yeah, there they're definitely still growing,
Yeah,
so that's awesome that for you to look back and be like, "Wow, look what I started and look where it's at now." That's
exactly.
awesome. And many Latinas are trying to break into tech from non-traditional backgrounds. So, what advice would you give them to
Yeah.
get to do that? Yeah.
So I come from a non-traditional background myself. I'm a first generation college student. I I honestly didn't finish college because I had to work and I had to support my family and I had to be a little more selfless when I was on my college journey. But I still somehow landed here, and I feel like that was the best thing that could have happened to me. But the most, I think what really helped me to be where I am today was just getting in the room. I always encourage networking. It's one of the strongest things that you can add to your tool belt, because if there's something that you really want to do, or if there's something you really want to be a part of, you won't really see yourself there until you're actually there. And so if you're not yet at that level where you want to be, network with the people that are, like, get connected, build relationships, let people remember you and keep you in mind, even if it's at a personal level and they may not be ready to have that professional connection with you yet. Always keep asking the questions, always keep finding out how you can continue to be like inspired and motivated by the people who are exactly where you want to be. And if anything, that tremendously helped me to have people remember who I was and to come back to me years later and say, "Hey, I remember we chatted," and I didn't remember. And so be like, "Okay, sure." And that leading me into job opportunities and speaking opportunities. And yeah, I mean, I would say that is always the strongest skill that you could have.
That is so true. It's like if as long as you show that curiosity, then that shows them okay interest, and they'll want to reach out to you. That's a
Exactly.
good point. And the Latinas in tech is a great. They always have the networking opportunities, so that's a
Yeah,
perfect time to connect with someone else, or maybe other recruiters that might want to be there as well.
exactly.
Um, So, for you, what inspired you to help co-found Latinas in Tech, and what impact have you seen it make? I think you mentioned that already,
Yeah,
but yeah.
yeah. Like I said earlier, I think there was just a huge opportunity for Houston to also be a part of that environment. Houston being known for oil and gas and medicine, it may not seem like there is much tech opportunity there, but there is. All of these companies are making their way into how to be more automated or more efficient and optimizing their strategies. And they're they have a need for tech. And so I think one other piece to the impact is a lot of Latinas didn't understand that you can also be a part of a tech industry while not working at a non-tech job, or working in a non-tech industry. And so we've had a really great opportunity to be able to showcase lots of different industries that had tech spaces or even incubation hubs that were really looking to continue to grow. And so Houston, maybe not being as big of a tech hub as Austin or Dallas in Texas, or much less like the Silicon Valleys of the US, we still have a huge way to make impact to the industry. And this is one of the most diverse cities in America. And so knowing that we can get into this space in our hometown is really just going to continue to foster more of that across the US and furthermore.
I love that you bring that up too, because I did have a friend that said, like, she does marketing, and she told me, "Well, I'm not in tech," so like she didn't think she could join Latinas in tech. And I
Yeah.
think that's a good reminder that you can do your type of role, but maybe in a tech setting,
Mhm.
you never know what opportunities are out there, and that kind of expands your horizons a little more.
Yeah, or learning about technologies or tech stacks that you can bring into that non-tech role, because it is important for us to stay green and to keep up with everything that's evolving, especially now that like AI is in the picture. You don't want AI to take your job, so you need to learn how to use AI. And so being in those spaces really helps you to just learn more about ways to be more efficient in your non-tech role as well.
That's a good point too. It kind of takes away the fear of like, oh, I'm gonna lose my job to AI, like, well, let's see what we can do with AI. Let's see how it can help you work. And how has this community shaped your own professional and personal growth?
Yeah. So what I learned was I learned so much from being on the ground with the community, like being boots on the ground, hearing their stories, hearing, where they were receiving pushback and all of the confusion and the unknowns about moving into their space. And I really do take all of that feedback well into the way I do my work and how I approach my hiring partners and these leaders in the tech industry. And I do vice versa. I hear about the gaps that candidates have and what these engineering leaders wish they had more of on their team, and I go back to the communities and I coach them through those pockets of gaps so they can shine when the hiring manager comes across them and they're like, hey, this is exactly what was missing for my team. And so being that bridge has really made me a strong community partner as well as a professional, because in recruitment, we can always do the run of the mill and just bring the same candidates over and over, the same resumes that all look alike. But learning from the community on, hey, I wish I had more of this in my career, and like pushing those hiring managers to kind of cultivate that more in their work and their leadership styles, really makes me like a strong asset to them as a recruiting partner.
That's amazing. That's so awesome that you can do that for the community, kind of give that insight, like, hey, here's what they're looking for. And so maybe start upskilling or maybe even soft skills too, who knows? But what do you think makes Houston tech community unique, especially for Latinas?
Yeah, so for Latinas, I mean, we come with lots of different approaches to the way that we tackle challenges or that we problem solve. I think we are a very empathetic community, and being in tech can feel very like heads down, stay in your lane, very robotic. But when you have a community that is very heartfelt and very empathetic towards their work and the way that they relate to people, I think we really do help motivate these tech initiatives to be more like people oriented and user friendly, especially if you think about like the product space being at Netflix. Like, we're an entertainment company at face value, but everything we do on the technical strategy, all of the back end work that nobody sees, really comes from a melting pot of different like perspectives and experiences, and we wouldn't have such a strong product if it weren't for all the voices in the room in the back end. So being Latina in general in the space really can move the needle for these tech strategies. And when it comes to Houston, as I said, we have so many different industries a part of just like our traditional like layout for Houston. And there are strategies that are coming from other industries that the tech industry can really learn from. And so I think we have a lot of really great insight to share with the tech industry.
That's so true. And then how can people connect with you or get involved with Latinas in Tech Houston?
Yeah, so I'm available on LinkedIn, of course. I am really working to rebrand myself on Instagram, but I am on Instagram at Sistem Puede. And I'm also with Latinas in Tech, we're always looking for more community members. Like I said, you don't have to be a part of tech to be in the community. If you just want to simply learn more about how to be more technical in your role, you can always join the Houston chapter or any other chapter.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time and congratulations again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.